Hey there, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new around here, well, my name is Mac and I'm a leadership coach, but I actually work specifically with first-time introverted managers and helping them to become effective leaders. And before I get into the content today, I want to let you know that I'm actually hosting a free masterclass. It's entitled How to Become a Confident, Competent, and Effective Manager, even if right now you're feeling overwhelmed, like in over your head, underconfident, and even if you're introverted by nature. And so if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely sign up by using the link in the description box below. So today what we're doing is talking about trust, which, as you already know, is kind of like the oil in the team engine, right? It's what allows your team to run really, really well. In fact, your team will only run really well if they trust each other and if they trust you. And the reason why I wanted to do this topic is because I think that there is nothing harder to overcome than a team that does not trust you as their manager, right? Because the other thing it does is if they don't trust you, then they don't respect you. And it kind of becomes this situation where you're kind of like an outsider, kind of like the substitute teacher. Ooh, this is a good one. Yeah. Kind of like the substitute teacher who is taking the place of a beloved teacher, and all the students, they resist everything that the substitute teacher says. It is like one of the worst things, right? Now, no, I have never been a substitute teacher myself, but I mean, come on, I've seen all the movies. I used to watch Saved by the Bell quite a bit, so I understand how this works, right? And there is a lot of similarities. I know for me, when I first became a manager, it kind of had this like subtext of like, you're one of them now. It's like you're part of management now, which means you're sitting on the other side of the table. You're not one of us anymore. And I was really thinking about this, right? I was thinking about what causes that, what causes this subtext that sometimes exists on a team. And I was tracing back some of the steps or some of the things that maybe my accelerator students did in the beginning that caused this exact problem. And when I think about it, it lines up with a lot of the things that y'all are mentioning too, because I know that a lot of you are also complaining about the same thing, that you kind of feel like your team doesn't necessarily trust or respect you. And so when I trace back some of their steps, some of the things that they did very early on, like very immediately, is that they jumped right into action. So as soon as they got their promotion, they started trying to assert their authority right out the gate. They started, assigning tasks and changing processes because they're enthused and they see a lot of things that need to change. And so they started like implementing all these changes, and they dove in way too quickly. In fact, just the other day, someone sent me a message on Instagram saying, hey, like Mac, I'm about to start my new role next week. And I want to know if on the first day I should set expectations with my team. And I was like, oh my God, no, please do not do that. That is like the worst thing that you can do, is to just come out of the gate setting expectations with your team. And I think that's what the trap that a lot of people are falling into, is that they're jumping into action far too quickly, forgetting that their team has just been through a change. And so they need time to adjust to that change. So what I'm trying to say is that you got to understand that before you do any of those things, you have to take the time and the steps necessary to build trust with each individual on your team first in order for any of those other things to work. Because if you don't do it, okay, if you don't do that, if you skip that like time that's needed to build trust and you jump straight into action, then here's a couple of things that's going to happen, okay? You're going to experience a lot of friction on the team. You're going to see some undermining behaviors. You're going to see people resist the changes that you're implementing in small and subtle ways. You're going to see them, like I said, undermining and going around you, right? Going straight to your manager because they're kind of like, who is this person? Or there'll be passive aggressive behaviors. You'll possibly feel bullied by your team members. Sometimes I get on calls with people and they say, I feel bullied. And I'm like, yeah, it's because your team doesn't really trust or respect you. That's why. And so these are the symptoms that typically occur when a manager hasn't taken the time to build trust with their team. And, I got to say, I don't think for the most part that it's because managers, don't want to do it. I think maybe it's just because they don't know how. They don't know how to do it authentically to them. And so what I want to share is just 3 quick steps that you can take. Obviously, there's a lot more, But I want to start with maybe the first 3 things that I think is wise for you to do if you're first jumping into a role and you want to build trust, or even if you've been in this role for a little bit of time and you want to reestablish trust. Here are three quick things that you can do just to get the ball rolling. Number 1, you have to create a safe space with no agendas where you and your team members can have honest conversations based on mutual respect. You see, when you do this, when you allow for this safe space, you're allowing your team members to privately express to you what their hesitations are, what their reservations are, or what their issues are with you, right? Why they might not feel like you are the best fit for this role, or what their issues are maybe with other team members. And what that does is it allows you to adapt based on what they've said. I think one of the worst things that we do as human beings is that we operate based on assumptions. And then in operating based on assumptions, we make a lot of decisions that are not actually in alignment with what the true issue is. When you create this space to find out what their issue is, then you can take appropriate action based on what they've said, straight from the horse's mouth rather than the story you're telling yourself in here, right? You can make the necessary adjustments. And don't be afraid of what they have to say. I mean, if honestly your goal is to diffuse the issue, then you should want to know what their issue is so that you can deal with it appropriately. Number 2, close the loop on that conversation by communicating your intentions. The objective of this conversation is to get everything out in the open, right? Just to lay it all on the table. But it's also so that you can kind of create this fresh slate so that you can now establish trust. And one of the best ways for you to establish trust is by communicating to your team member that you're vested in their success, right? Communicate that to them. Let them know that at the end of the day in your role, all you want, or all your intention is to make, or your entire intention, I should say, is to make sure that they are successful in their role. So make sure that in that conversation, you let them know that. It's not good enough for you to know it in your head. You got to communicate it so that at least they hear you say it. Number 3, once you've had that conversation, it's important that you demonstrate in your actions that you actually heard them. It's one thing to, create this safe space and to have this conversation. And it's another thing to demonstrate that you heard them, right? What good is this conversation where they're expressing, their concerns if now you turn around and you do the exact same thing? Right? It's just not, make it make sense, right? And even if they didn't have a valid reason for whatever the issues are, you need to now demonstrate through your actions that you are not what they think you are. Show them that you are genuinely committed to being that manager that is vested in their success through your actions. So those are kind of my 3 initial steps that you can take just to get the ball rolling if you feel as though you have this sticking point with your team members. I hope you found the video to be enjoyable. And if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other content that I share on this platform. And before I go, I want to remind you that I am hosting a free masterclass that you are invited to. And I'm actually going to leave the link for that masterclass in the description box below. It's going to be fun and you're definitely not going to want to miss it. So get signed up, get registered today. Well, my friend, it was so much fun to be here with you today. It's always fun for me to be with y'all. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Do not forget to keep smiling. I honestly believe that a smile is one of the best tools that you have in your back pocket. It just changes the way you feel and the way you view things. And so please do not forget to keep smiling, even on those days when it sucks. Just have a little bit of a smile if you can. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.